What if you woke up tomorrow and the banks were simply gone? Not just your local branch with a temporarily closed sign, but every bank, everywhere, vanished in an instant. Imagine walking to the corner shop for your morning coffee. You tap your phone, but the payment terminal flashes an error. You try your card and it is declined. A knot of confusion tightens in your stomach. There is no bank to call for help. Your online banking app, a familiar blue icon on your screen, now opens to a blank void. The imposing glass buildings downtown, monuments to finance, stand dark and silent. Their doors are locked. There is no one inside, no computers humming, no money moving. This is not a localized glitch. It is a global shutdown. The central nervous system of our modern world has ceased to function, and we are only just beginning to feel the tremors. We interact with the banking system so constantly, so seamlessly, that we have forgotten it is even there. It operates like the plumbing in our homes or the electricity in our walls, an invisible utility we only notice when it fails. The disappearance of banks would not just be an economic event, it would be a societal one, pulling the rug out from under the countless small routines and transactions that structure our lives. The initial shock would give way to a cascade of consequences. Moving from personal inconvenience to systemic paralysis with breathtaking speed. The question is not just about money, but about the intricate web of trust, records, and processes that money relies upon. We are about to embark on a journey into the first 48 hours of a world without its financial bedrock. The first signs of this new reality would be small and personal, but they would multiply rapidly. The barista behind the counter cannot make change for the few customers with cash, because the shop's own deposit from yesterday never cleared, and they have no float. The automated toll booth on the highway no longer raises its gate, causing traffic to snarl for miles. Your online grocery order, scheduled for delivery this afternoon, is summarily cancelled with a sterile, automated email citing a payment processing failure. Each of these moments is a tiny tear in the fabric of ordinary life. On their own, they are frustrating. Beat cut to city-wide failures, but when they happen to everyone all at once, they signal the beginning of a profound and frightening breakdown. The silent, invisible work that banks perform every second of every day has just stopped, and the world is about to learn what that work was worth. To understand the chaos that would unfold, we must first look inside the machine and appreciate what banks actually do. Their most basic function, and the one we learn about as children, is to act as a safe place for our money. Instead of stashing cash under a mattress, cut beats where it is vulnerable to fire. Cut theft. Cut simple loss, we deposit it into an account. The bank guards it. Cut insures it up to a certain limit. Cut and keeps a meticulous digital record of how much belongs to us. This function of safekeeping is the foundation of financial security. It transforms our earnings from a physical, perishable asset into an abstract, durable concept. It allows our wealth to exist securely, independent of our physical possession of it, which is the first and most crucial step toward a complex economy. The second primary role of banks is to facilitate payments. Daily transactions montage. This is the function we engage with dozens of times a week without a second thought. Cut beats. When you swipe your debit card, cut, write a check, cut, send money through an app, cut, a bank is working in the background. It is verifying that you have the funds, cut, communicating with the recipient's bank, cut, transferring the value, cut, and updating the ledgers on both sides. This vast interconnected system is a global payment utility. moving trillions of dollars a day through millions of transactions. A business in Ohio paying a supplier in Vietnam. Cut. A daughter in London sending money to her mother in Lagos. Cut. A customer in a local bookstore buying a novel. Without this payment infrastructure, commerce would grind to a halt, reduced to the limitations of physical cash exchange, a system wholly inadequate for the scale and speed of modern life. Critically, banks create and allocate credit, taking deposits from savers and lending to borrowers. This process fuels everything from home ownership to new businesses. They are the institutional bedrock upon which our enterprise is built, a fact that would become terrifyingly clear the moment they vanished. The first 24 hours would be defined by the immediate and total failure of the payment system. The world wouldn't stop with a bang, but with 1 billion silent failed transactions. People would quickly discover their plastic cards, and digital wallets have become useless trinkets. The convenience of a cashless society would instantly invert into a trap. As retail and online commerce seizes up, bustling city districts would fall eerily quiet. This is the first wave of the collapse. As the clock ticks past the 24-hour mark, a more devastating wave begins. For most, payday is a digital event. Without banks, this process cannot happen. Millions wake to unchanged balances. A missed salary isn't an inconvenience, it's a catastrophe for families living paycheck to paycheck. Simultaneously, businesses are pushed to the brink. The breakdown in the business-to-business payment chain severs the supply chains that feed our economy. Production stops, shelves empty, not because people cannot buy, but because there is nothing left to sell. The economy's engine seizes completely. The collection of taxes, income tax, corporate tax to sales tax, is an almost entirely automated process managed through bank transfers. With this revenue stream cut off, government coffers would run dry with alarming speed. This would immediately imperil the government's ability to meet its own obligations, creating a public sector version of the payroll crisis that has already crippled private industry. The consequences of this government funding crisis would be terrifyingly direct. Public sector employees, including doctors in hospitals, nurses in hospitals, teachers in classrooms, police officers, firefighters, would not get paid. The very people we rely on to maintain order and provide care during a crisis would be facing the same financial desperation as everyone else. Beyond payroll, government benefit programs would cease to function. Pension payments to the elderly, unemployment benefits for the jobless, welfare support for the vulnerable would stop. These payments are the social safety net, and their sudden disappearance would cause immense human suffering and social unrest. In parallel, global financial markets would enter a state of total panic and paralysis. Markets for stocks, bonds, commodities, and currencies are not just abstract numbers on a screen. They depend on a complex process called clearing and settlement, which is handled by a handful of major banks. When a trader buys a stock, a bank ensures the buyer's cash is exchanged for the seller's shares. Without banks to perform this function, trading would become impossible. Markets would freeze. The New York Stock Exchange, the London Stock Exchange, the Tokyo Stock Exchange, all would be forced to halt operations. The concept of a price for any major asset would cease to exist, as there would be no mechanism to discover it. The world's investment capital, trillions of dollars representing the savings of individuals, pension funds, and corporations, would be trapped in a frozen, inaccessible state. This market freeze would trigger a global contagion of fear. The interconnectedness of the global financial system, normally a source of efficiency, would become its greatest vulnerability. The trust that underpins the entire global economic order. Trust that contracts will be honored, that assets have value, and that payments will be made, would be shattered. This is the systemic fracture, where the problem becomes too big for any single entity to solve. You've been watching IfVerse, where imagination meets possibility. See you in the next reality.